This gathering of multi-stakeholders at the conference hall of the Office of the Vice President is for the inauguration of the reconstituted Human Capital Development Steering Committee. The Vice President is the one to inaugurate the committee. It says it became imperative to reflect the new leadership of the nation on the committee and bring all stakeholders together.
The three thematic areas of the HCD, which are health and nutrition, education and labor participation, aren't only cross-cutting. They also align with the 8-point agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, which aims to eradicate poverty, create jobs, and drive access to capital, among other aspirations. I believe that this alignment of interests signals the approval of what HCD sets out to accomplish: the addition of 24 million healthy, educated, and productive Nigerians to our expanding population by 2030.
The program is expected to improve the quality of lives of the citizens.
In the 7 years of the program's existence, we were only able to achieve a 1% achievement. I believe with the kind of people we have now and the kind of synergy we are trying to create, the sky could be the limit.
This is actually the whole essence of government and governance. Governance is about human capital, it's about human beings, it's about the welfare and prosperity of individuals. That's bottom line. And the bottom line of all is about the human capital that is embodied in the individual.
The states will have an important role to play in terms of teacher quality, the curriculum, the textbooks, the measurement, so that children learn and have good learning outcomes. And for our youth to be skilled so that they can be able to get jobs in the economy that will be growing and further fuel the prosperity that we know is in the vision that Mr. President has laid out for this country.
The Human Capital Development Program, launched in 2018, is seen by the Tinubu administration as a chance to reignite hope for millions of impoverished Nigerians once it's fully implemented. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed, we're going to go ahead and talk about the economy, human capital development. They all connect. So we do have Rukaya El-Rufai here with us. She is the special advisor to the president on NEC. I did ask that question too, in case you're wondering. And climate change, she's also the acting coordinator, Human Capital Development 2.0, which they'll talk to us about in a moment. And sitting right beside her, Dr. Ahmed Abdul Wahab, who is a senior health advisor, Nigeria Governors Forum, and strategic advisor, Central Working Group of the Human Capital Development Secretariat. Good morning. Thank you for coming on, both of you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. So let me start with you. We do know that human capital development is actually central to a lot of things. If no matter the policies and programs that are there, if you don't have the human resource in terms of the skill sets to get certain things running, we may just be groping in the dark, so to speak. So just give us a brief overview, because in that report we did hear a focus on the impoverished, trying to bring certain things up to speed and build capacity. So just give us a broad perspective, if you will, on perhaps what the mindset and the approach to this is.
Yes, so like you rightly pointed, human capital development is as good as any economic policy or infrastructure policies or plans. And, like you said, it's an integral part of prosperity of a nation and economic development, because you do need to ensure that your citizens are productive and they have equal opportunities. And this human capital entails having a holistic approach to ensure that from fetus, not even birth, because nutrition starts from the pregnant mother, down to the survival of that child, to the survival of the mother, to ensuring that a child has access to quality education, with particular emphasis on the girl child as well, and also tackling out of school children, that is a phenomenon, and access to quality healthcare and good nutrition, down to labor force participation. So it's a program that indeed has a very long-term results framework. I think of it as equating to the life expectancy of a human being. So it's fetus to old age. So now, coming to what this program seeks to achieve, it seeks to provide a very robust vision and a strategy for the country to follow on human capital development. And what's very interesting is that this was developed by the previous NEC. Based on Nigeria's performance on Human Capital Development Index, Mr. Bill Gates and Alhaji Aliko Dangote came, and there was an emergency NEC, and the government committed to developing a robust strategy for human capital that was as good as the ERGP then. And, you know, that's why I think we need to applaud President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Shettima for continuing such an important program that demonstrates Nigeria goes beyond the political risks of discontinuing programs and continuing, and also ensuring that it's improved upon, because when you look at the launch of the steering committee, it's under the auspices of HCD 2.0. So there is an upgrade that is done. So this program hopes to bring together the federal, subnationals, donors, key partners. You can see NGF is also a key partner.
So that's where you come in, Dr. Abdulhab. The governors' component here, what do they bring to the table? What do we expect from them for this?
Thank you, Chamberlain. So when you look at the whole NEC, governors are also members of the National Economic Council, and the decision to actually pursue this cause was a collective decision between the federal and the state. And the expectations from the state is most of the implementations, most of the activities that are going to be done at the subnational level. And it is very important that the states, particularly the governors, own these initiatives and then they drive it themselves. When you look at the components of the HCD, broadly the HCD for Nigeria, the focus is on 3 areas: health and nutrition, education, and labor force. So when you look at all these 3, for you to be able to succeed in these 3, the state has to be actively involved. And they are going to be the one driving it. When maybe the analogy I will give you is the federal make the recipe and the state do the cooking. So they work together and then to get this.
Well, the states, for some people, have not been very good cooks over the years. Because if you look at the unemployment figures in some of these states and the policies in some of these states, they don't see the private sector thrive. So one wonders, why should we expect anything different from the states about this policy? Because the human capital index across states in this country, it's really low.
So it's not, we have a lot of challenges in the country. And I think it's not just going to say it's the state that is the problem. When you talk of the nation, you have the federal and you have the state. So it's a collective responsibility. You just don't blame one arm and say one arm is being responsible. And when you look at things that are happening in this country, one of the areas that this HCD, in terms of access to health services, a lot of people are not able to go to health, they are not able to go to seek health because of cost. And so the country introduced insurance. So when you're saying things that have happened in the state, we have a lot of good things that have happened in the state. So on this insurance, now in just 3-4 years, the number of people on insurance in Nigeria are about 10 million. And this is the state doing this. So I think it's wrong for you to say policies have not been successful or what's going to be different. A lot is going to be different. We just have to have faith. We need to work together, and then I can tell you we're going to succeed.
No, policies have not been going the way they ought to. For instance, education.
Yep.
Which is part of the component of this.
Yes.
You look at education in different states and the quality, because I mean, some years ago, Ogun State government held, I think, an investment summit.
Yes.
And the governor at the time did say, look, we have a huge challenge with the human capital. So different states face a similar challenge. The quality of education, out-of-school children, these are all things that will contribute to human capital.
Absolutely.
So those are the issues.
Yeah, so the figures are appalling. We have over 20 million out-of-school children. When you put policies, they have gestational period. You don't start it today and then tomorrow you see changes. What you want to see is to make sure that we are on the right trajectory. And when you look at the indices now, it shows that this country, yes, it is still not as we wanted, but the good thing is we are on the right trajectory. And then you don't get this thing achieved just in 1-2 years.
How are we on the right trajectory?
Okay, when you look at, so I'll give you example. I'll just give you insurance now. What we wanted to do is insurance has been made mandatory in the country. For 5 years, we have not been able to cover a lot of children, a lot of people on insurance. But now you now have almost 10 million. And so that's how we continue to go, we'll continue to increase. If you look at...
Out of what, 200 plus million?
Huh?
Out of 200 plus million?
No, so you just started. It's just 2 years.
Can I
mean, I want to be able to talk about this steering committee.
Yep.
Incidentally, when this committee, it was the Integrated Regional Human Capital Development Strategy, when it was launched under the Buhari administration, I happened to cover that when it happened.
Yep.
This is 2.0, I'm guessing,
yes.
of that. Now, what did it achieve in the time? Because it was launched, I remember, 23rd of June, 23rd of June, 2022. That's what I'm seeing here. The National Economic Council launching the Integrated Regional Human Capital Development Strategy, right? So the strategy itself was in 2022. Yeah. What was achieved at that time, and what are you building on, or are you creating something new? I'm going to start with you.
No, absolutely not. Let me just comment to the governors. What's important is looking forward and the commitment. You can see the attendance. You can see the chair of the governors forum was there, and the governors were there. All the ministers were there. So we're very hopeful and thankful that at least the commitment is there. And coming to your question on what has been achieved, look, it started with a blank page, and you must applaud the fact that they were even able to create a very tangible a vision strategy document with clear goals. There were 3 thematic areas, and for the states, they were allowed to adopt and adapt. So you have a state like Nasarawa, for example, that added gender component, passed a bill, even has an agency. So they were able to set their goals, identify 16 key things, develop guidelines for the states to not only implement the program, which is the recipe Dr. Ahmed is talking about, but also how to measure. Yes, Nigeria marginally increased on the 2 most popular measures by the World Bank and UNDP is very marginal, but that's why I started off with explaining the long-term nature of the program. Imagine a child from birth. And it takes 5 years before school.
So how long till we start to see tangible?
There will be quick wins, and the 2.0.
Yes, how long?
The 2.0, we are planning on looking at the Pareto areas, the 20% that will give us 80% impact. So going to your question on the 2.0, we're not discarding the achievements of 1.0. We are building and upgrading. So for example, gender that has become important. And what you should understand is Nigeria was the it was an ECOWAS commitment that was signed, and it was launched in Nigeria, and it's been launched across all other West African countries. So there is that peer benchmark mechanism. We hope to see, because when you look at the underlying indicators, they're quick areas to start addressing. So skills, for example, vocational training, and even with the nutrition, the awareness around nutrition, using locally available foods. We are going to look at, in that 2.0, it starts with the implementation plan and the strategic realignment to renewed hope and the swap strategy that Minister of Health has. But this is what the 2.0, which we hope that His Excellency Vice President Kashim will launch in June. It would unveil the specific high-impact areas that is reasonable and practically achievable within 2 years, while we leave a foundation for the next neck as well, just like we inherited a very good one.
I want to be able to talk with you about some of the things that the Vice President said. He actually mentioned 3 thematic areas: health and nutrition, education and labor inclusivity.
Labor for, yeah.
So,
reminds me of labor minimum wage.
And he kept talking about the Nigerian thriving. I kept listening to him. The Nigerian has to thrive for Nigeria's economy to thrive.
Yes.
You know where we are. I'm guessing that you understand how hard things are for the Nigerian right now, the quality of life that has taken a nosedive. And many of these Nigerians believe that it is as a result of the policies of the Tinubu administration. Yes, there may be long-term benefits. We keep hearing this. It's El Dorado. We're on our way to El Dorado. It's a long journey. We're on our way there. But we're not there yet.
Yes.
How can the Nigerian thrive, given the economic situation that we have right now? No matter what steering committees are launched, the truth is that the Nigerian can barely feed right now. So how do you have a Nigerian that thrives under this plan?
Okay, thank you. You see, when you look at it, when you say the issue of the economy that we're having a problem, one of the things that wasn't, if someone is sick now, for instance, I want to talk about universal access to health, universal health coverage, which is one of the key things that this HCD is driving. We want to have a Nigerian that you can walk to any health facility without thinking that, okay, at that point I have to pay. You can access care without you going into any catastrophic expenditure. So yes, we know the economy is bad. I know the economic experts are doing all the necessary things. I can only talk to you from the perspective of things like health, education. So in order to mitigate effect on the Nigerian, so the plan is to have a universal health coverage. If you remember, the Honorable Minister with the President launched in December 12th, just last year, this compact on making sure that each Nigerian have access to the health they need. And all the governors have signed it. The President signed, you have international partners. And the whole idea is you should be able to walk into a health facility. Maybe you don't have a problem. You can just go into any facility and access care. You can be able to pay out of your pocket. But majority
that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, so that's...
Why should we pay out of pocket?
No, that's what we're trying to take off now.
But most people who, quote and unquote, are on, what do you call health insurance,
yes.
They only cover some Panadol and some headache. They can't go beyond a certain limit.
I don't know. There's what we call...
Very insignificant.
No, there's what we call minimum package of care. So if you look at that minimum package of care, it looks at what are the causes of mortality in Nigeria. When you talk about childhood mortality, for instance, what are the common causes? Malaria, pneumonia, diarrhea. These are not rocket science. The treatment that you use for this is not something that you have to go to abroad altogether. This Panadol you're talking about, Panadol, ACTs, these are they're very cheap. It doesn't mean that you have to get some very complex, expensive drugs. So you go to facility and you're able to access this. And what is important, you go to the PHC facilities. We are not in Abuja here. You go to the rural area where people can be able to access these drugs. You're surprised with some people.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
And on the state level, what's the minimum health care that a person can access in the subnationals?
So when you're talking about the minimum package of care, so as a child, for instance, you can go, you can get immunization services.
Immunization.
Immunization, you can get antenatal services. And then if a woman delivers, you get delivery service. And then after the delivery, you have basic postnatal care. And then when somebody is growing up, you can also have family planning services so that you can, if you want to space children. And then if you have things like malaria, pneumonia, what I said, those common causes of illness, you can access it. But like I said, I think it's good to say that this is the trajectory that we're going. And then now we're trying to make sure that if you go to any facility, you're able to access. I'm not saying you go to all facilities now, you're going to get that. But that is one target is.
How do we measure these things? Because, I mean, I know you spoke about we are hoping that a lot of things will happen. So what should how do we measure and when, such that rather than hope renewed is not dashed at the end of the day?
So it's interesting. We have some, from the office of the VP, we have some very brilliant guys that are using this IT, trying to get perception of the populace. Not just
the measure with perception?
In terms of, they look at what people are saying and what are their complaints.
No, I'm talking about in terms of the results of
no, that's the results.
Working or not.
No, so we have a robust M&E. We have a robust M&E that looks at these indicators. So we have immunization coverage, out-of-school children, vocational training, and all those. So we have those very robust monitoring and evaluation framework. But beyond even that one, that even have the one that you can be able to get the, what do you call it, perception of the populace somewhat. So you put everything together.
So let me come in here. The indicators are not so different from the health. For example, for health fertility rate, maternal mortality rate, under 5 mortality, under 5 stunting, that's the hidden hunger, which is more detrimental to a person achieving their potential, because it's about a Nigerian being able to achieve their fullest potential. And right now, based on the indices, is at 30%, like 0.3. The highest, the best performing country in the world is in the 0.7880. So what it means right now is the child will only be the potential to the chances of an average Nigerian child, and that's what we're trying to improve. For education, we're looking at pupil to trained teacher ratio. We're looking at number of out of school. We're looking at harmonized test scores, youth unemployment, and you see these are indices that have been set and compares countries. So beyond just these indicators, we're able to see how we're faring in a globally competitive context.
At the end of the day, did they talk about how they intend to achieve this when we are grappling with power supply in this country?
So it was one of the discussions when the steering committee. Okay, so immediately His Excellency Vice President Kashim Shettima inaugurated the steering committee. There was a more technical committee, the core working group. UNDP raised.
That's in that closed-door session that you had.
So it's more of the technical committee. His Excellency also inaugurated that committee. Okay. So the committee to come up with the 2.0 to oversee the development of the 2.0, and it was raised. So even gender, you'll be surprised, even sanitary towel, how that affects girl-child access days when and rural electric. That's why solar. That's why climate is one of the refreshers of 2.0, because there's a positive correlation with access to electricity and
okay.
So they're all things that we're going to look at. And so what we're trying to look at beyond the what to do, that will move the needle, not emotion. Like we're monitoring the results. We're also looking at the governance and the operating structure. We're trying to look at how to collaborate with private sector. So part of the feedback we got is, let's look at like the COVID approach. Private sector are biggest employers of labor. So PPP, what's sustainable funding plan for such a long-term program, and the kind of oversight that will help pool the funding in the constrained fiscal space.
You're talking about perception. Maybe you should go with this, because part of the question we hear from people, they keep asking, what has Nigeria ever done to any one of them? Because you're comparing us to different countries. Those countries have policies where from once you're born, the country takes care of certain things for you up until a certain level. But here, your guess is as good as mine. But don't worry, hang on. Ayo has questions for both of you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin with the gentleman with you right there in our studio. When you were talking the other time, my colleague was asking you, Dr. Abdul, my colleague was asking you about the governors. So I'd like to begin from there. There's this general saying, and we all know that if we don't know where we are coming from, at least if we don't know where we are going, at least we have an idea where we're coming from. So I would like to ask you, and perhaps also to spade a question that was also put forward by Kayla earlier, about how well have we done in terms of intervention from the states? Because there needs to, I know that the roadmap is something that is being worked on and all of that, but what do the governors need to do? Are they aware of the specific or peculiar situations that they have to solve in terms of human capital development?
Okay, thank you. First, in terms of, excuse me, whether governors are aware, they're very aware of what is happening. And maybe I should be specific in terms of maybe primary health care, for instance. The governors on themselves make a commitment to strengthen primary health care. And one of the, in terms of the progress that have been made, when you look at all the states, because of the importance is to make sure that you have a good coordination and governance structure for primary health care. And in all the 36 states, that has been achieved. But then in terms of numbers, when you want to talk about, for instance, things like immunization, the last survey that was done in Nigeria, when you look at the states, in most of the states, there has been a relative increase in immunization coverage. Now, when you look at the coverage in Nigeria. But I think it is always good to, we are not there yet. But you can't just say that no progress has been made. Progress has been made, and the states are committed. Even at the last meeting of the Governors Forum, which was held last Wednesday, one of the key decisions, if you look at the communique, the discussions that was done at it, the main thing that was done was actually looking at primary health care, we look at insurance, and we look at nutrition. So, and the governors are concerned, and at the end of the day, everybody, because there were state-specific issues, and then the actions that each state needs to do. And at the end of that meeting, each of the governors went home committing that they know what exactly they need to address, and they've gone back, and that's what they're going to do. So the governors are very aware, and they're doing what they need to do.
Okay, now, still on that, you heard the Speaker of the House of Representatives speak earlier before we came on this topic, and he was talking about the fact that with 1.0, we achieved maybe just 1%. And hopefully, as he said, we'll be able to cascade a lot higher this time around. So I'd like to ask you, what are the constraints that you think may have impeded progress with 1.0 that need to be dealt with 2.0? That's still for you, sir.
Okay. So, like you said, the index that measures the human capital index that shows that Nigeria just made a 1-point marginal increase. And what we're saying is we want to make sure that under 2.0, we're going to make a more, we're going to make a better, it's going to be more than that 1.0. So what are the issues? So the issues that we identified, issues around governance, issues around funding, issues around coordination, things around gender, even trying to be innovative. At least the nexus between climate and some of this human capital has been identified. Those are some of the issues that are going to be introduced. We have, in the previous one, we have like 16 interventions. And like we heard the acting coordinator mention, you have some states that added some other interventions. So we're going to make sure that things are tailored to the needs of the respective states. And hopefully, with the commitment that we have from their excellencies, we will be able to make more traction under 2.0. And it's good to also stress 1.0, like Rukaya used to say, is like an upgrade. So you're moving from, so it's not that we're throwing out everything wholesale, we're still retaining a significant part. And specifically those lessons that we learned in implementing from those ones that needs to help us improve are those that we're improving on so that we have a more better, smarter initiatives that will help us to achieve our goals.
Let me come to you, Madam El-Rufai. I see that education is one of the ideas, one of the issues that are going to be addressed with this 2.0. I was actually looking out for something in the area of technology. Do you think it's embedded, or should we expect that? AI is going, literally taking the world by storm. So to assume that technology is embedded and not be specific about it is something that might harm us in the long run. So in what way are we integrating technology? Because if we are looking at it in the basics, as it is, it will look like we're just trying to catch up. Meanwhile, the world is not waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, like you rightly pointed out, the greatest challenge for any policymaker right now, especially in Nigeria, is how to maintain a balanced agenda. How can you address these current challenges while positioning for the future? And in fact, I have right here in front of me the ECOWAS adopted indicators. And like I pointed out earlier, it's not only Nigeria that is implementing this program. And one of the key additions that has been realized from lessons learned is to open up entrepreneurship, financial inclusion, and digital economy. And, you know, part of the indicators includes internet penetration, registration of new businesses, and of course, with education, we understand that STEM education, it's very important to build future skills. So you can't plan for a long-term program without looking at disruptive trends, especially in the areas of technology, and not make sure it's inculcated. So that's why we said, you know, that we're not throwing away 1.0, but we're going to upgrade in line beyond the strategic alignment with Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda and Professor Pati's SWAP, and also the NEC agenda. We want to also ensure that we remain globally competitive, and, you know, we build future skills, the work of, and position Nigeria for the work of the workplace of the future.
Let me hope that we're going to be having more conversations with you, madam, because the natural question I would follow up with is how, you know, how will that be achieved? How are we carrying people who do not understand technology along to be able to bequeath a legacy they don't understand to the future generation? How are we engaging young people? Yeah, right? Yes, I mean, I identify the delicate balance you talked about, but how are we going to engage young people? I mean, part of the program that you listed here is continuous engagement. The question is, how? Because we hear these, I'm almost certain that quite a number of people are not even aware there was an HCD 1.0. So how will the engagement happen? How will the awareness happen so that Nigerians are not just aware, but can take ownership of this, especially in a way that it will interest them personally?
Okay, so while the 2.0 is being designed, there is a transition structure that we developed, and beyond separating the program, such that the program is accelerated, there is the M&E and data, and there is the stakeholder engagement, advocacy, and comms. Because we do understand the need to play the advocacy, because at NEC, that's what the main contributions NEC can provide. Beyond providing a platform coordination, you could advocate and create the awareness. So in terms of the how, I would plead with you to wait till 2.0 is launched by the National Economic Council and my principal, Vice President Kashim Shettima. Then I hope that we'll come back and we'll discuss in greater detail. Now we want data and the lessons learned and engaging the right stakeholders to help inform, and looking at the peer comparators with other countries that we hope by June, God willing, we'll launch the 2.0 that would detail out the how, and I'm going to take this as a feedback, you know, and we'll make sure we accelerate the advocacy and the communication.
All right, so as we wind down, Dr. Abdul Wahab, let me ask you, I mean, according to this document, this data obtained from a document prepared by UBEC in March 2024, it showed state-by-state matching of grants which was not accessed by this state. And it turns out that 27 states and the FCT failed to access 54.9 billion naira UBEC fund. And I'm saying that for basic education, by the way, and I'm saying education is one of the key components of this here. And if this is the case, the governors are falling short in this regard for basic education. So that's why people look and say, look, there's really a lot of grounds to cover. So if they haven't demonstrated this intent, so all of this that they're putting together, and they can't do the basics in their state, for which they were elected for, by the way, how then do we really say we can properly measure beyond perception in terms of actuality of what they will achieve?
You see, the UBEC fund, I think there's a lot of more than just saying that state did not access. There are other issues why states are not able to access it. It's not just as straightforward that the fund is there, you just go in and access it.
Are those issues impossible to address for decades?
No, so that's the thing, is trying to unlock some of the reasons why you have. No. So now I think it has been understood.
They'll be trying on a 6.0.
No. Not a 6.0. What you're saying is it's not as straightforward as this thing that you say they have been for some time. And it's been there for quite some time. And part of the things that we try, we look at some of those gaps. And then hopefully what we're trying to do is we will try to address them. We're not saying that there are no problems. These are the issues that we've identified, and then you want... No, if there's a resource there, everybody wants the resources. If you say states are complaining of very narrow fiscal space, and here's a funding sitting somewhere there that we need to access, and then they don't go and access, you know that there's something behind. So we try to unlock what are those challenges, and then make sure that states are able to access those funds.
Well, I was just going to say before we go, it's important that you understand that many Nigerians are going to be watching your office very, very carefully. This human development thing was created in 2018. Yes. This strategy paper, 2022. Yes. We're in 2024.
Yes.
So it's just something you should have at the back of your mind. Everyone is going to be watching to see.
Absolutely.
That is not another talk shop and waste another money again.
Absolutely. So I think what we're trying to do is, yes, 2022, let's see. And then we're trying to actually... the awareness that we're creating, you're saying the advocacy, you want people to know this is what you want to do, and then you can hold us in terms of accountable for some of this.
Human capital can work if this keeps going up. If the price of diesel and petrol keeps going up, employers cannot employ to develop capital. Yeah, so there's several components to this, but we want to thank both of you for coming on. Dr. Ahmad Abdul-Wahab is the Senior Health Advisor, Nigeria Governors Forum. We will also have had Rokia El-Rufai, Special Advisor to the President on NEC and Climate Change. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so Business Morning on Sunrise, it will be up next on the hour with Ladi Williams, so don't go away.